Okay, that's what I was, that's exactly.
All right, so Mount Salem has been the hot topic this weekend. We mentioned it earlier, but here to delve further into the zone of special operations, head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Corporate Communications Unit, Superintendent Stephanie Lizzie, and Civil Military Cooperation and Media Affairs Officer at the Jamaica Defense Force, Major Basil Jai. I don't think I need to tell you who's who over there. We're tired already
Really?
after that introduction. Good morning to you both. Welcome to Smile Jamaica. Who is in charge? Is it the police or is it the soldier? Is it a joint operation? Who is in charge?
It's a joint operation. So right across the board, on the ground, you have a superintendent as well as a major who takes joint decisions on operational activities.
Okay. So you guys live in the community, sir? And for how long? I think it said 60 days. Is that it? So you're going to live there for 60 days?
We will be there for a bit of time, yes.
60 days?
60 days, at least, initially.
How did this one go as far as, let's call it a launch, goes? There's been a lot of chatter. Lots of people are talking about this. Lauding, some people saying information got out, why you let the criminals know before you reach there. Of course, anticipated, I'm sure, positives and negatives on both sides. But as the first rollout, are you pleased with how Mount Salem has unfolded?
I think it went according to plan. It is the very first zone that was declared by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we did weeks of planning leading up to that date because we weren't sure when it was going to be. But all the things that we anticipated, of course, we did the element of surprise, as Major mentioned earlier. We had our intelligence network well ahead of when we launched. And there were some teething issues at the very beginning, which we anticipated, because if a community is going to wake up and their community is under curfew, and that's something that you would announce well in advance. So you wake up and you see curfew, and it comes with some level of requirement, and identification is one such things, and there would be some regulation of movement. So persons who would have planned a day ahead of what their next day will be like, that would cause some level of inconvenience. However, I must say that the security forces really worked very hard and put on a professional display so as to make that process very simplified.
Major, what's this notion of I saw some talk on social media about media tipping off. I think you guys can make it very clear that when you plan these operations, you don't give people information ahead of time, because that would ruin the element of surprise. Can we make that clear?
Absolutely.
Or clarify?
I know there was a lot of speculation about when we're going to have the first ZOSO, where it's going to be, but the location was never made public for obvious reasons. And Jamaica is still a very transparent country. If people are smart, they would have been reading the news, and if you are on the other side of the fence, if you are a criminal, surely you would have had to pay some attention to it. But no, absolutely, absolutely not. We would not have telegraphed our movements like that.
Let's talk about the IDs. The IDs, people coming in and out of the community are expected to show identification. I also saw some discussion about that aspect being difficult for many persons, and also the legality of it. I heard the PM say there were some notes you all made from what has happened so far to adjust some things. So can we talk about that aspect of it, and what kind of adjustments are you going to make moving forward so it's less rigid?
All right.
Well, in fact, just this morning, if I may, Stephanie, there were some concerns about the back-to-school period, especially for children. Now, we have made some adjustments. As I understand it, effective this morning, children in school uniform who do not have IDs on them as they're moving through the zones will be bused to their institution. Their attendance will be verified. If they are confirmed to be students at the school, obviously we won't have a problem. If not, they will then be taken to a JP for further processing.
Really?
Because criminals are very smart. And so we have made that adjustment this morning in order to help the system to move a little bit slowly. But yes, absolutely. If everyone in a community has an ID, it would make it much more smoother. We understand that, but we must remember that this is still a security operation. We want to keep criminals out, and if there are criminals in, we want them to stay there so that we can properly identify.
Is it legal to ask for the ID though?
And if we yes, and
okay.
It is legal. And if we stay a little more on the identification, we don't want persons to see the need to have an official identification, which is a passport, a driver's license, or what they call the voter's ID, because even though you're part of a zone of special operations, apart from accessing and exiting the community, simple things like if you are arrested, even for a minor offense, if you can't prove your identity, then you may have a difficulty in getting bail. You may have a relative that is arrested and then you want to bail the individual. If you can't prove your identity, then you can't bail a person. And yesterday, the Prime Minister and a team did a tour of the community, and they made some special arrangements, and come weekend they will make provisions for every person who in that community who are interested in acquiring identification to be part of this social community health fair, which will bring TRN, RGD, the EOJ to do identification, passport and immigration. So instead of persons complaining that there's a difficulty in accessing these services, all that service will be brought to the community at I don't get the exact days yet, but we know it's in the coming days. So all of those things are things that persons should have. We can't have persons living in this country as phantom, because it's going to make it a little more difficult. It's a security operation, and we know that a criminal will turn up and say, I am John Brown, when in fact he's someone else. What can verify is some form of identification that has a photograph and address. So it's very important that not just for persons living within these special zones of operation, but I think every Jamaican should try to have one of the 3 official forms of identification.
Yeah. Sir, all weapons that will be used in the zone have been registered with the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine.
Yes.
Why, sir?
We're looking to the past and trying to learn from the past, and so this was an important step. A lot of the measures that we've taken into consideration going into the zone were really a result of us examining what has happened in the past and how we can do better going forward. And despite what some of the naysayers might say, I think any objective person looking on as to what has happened over the past couple of days would agree that this is probably one of the most efficient, most well-organized, most well-run, despite the hiccups.
But this ensures what, sir? Sorry to jump in, but this ensures what?
Ensures that if there's any incident within the zone that involves a weapon,
these are police weapons.
Yes.
Police and
it will be easier to track who fired that weapon, etc.
Okay.
So if a spent shell is found on the ground, even without knowing who fired it, that spent shell will be able to say who was issued with this weapon and the weapon it was fired
We
from.
already know that this is the first one. Did the security forces have anything to do with choosing this? I know the leader of the opposition suggested that he was a little surprised that it wasn't in Clarendon because of what's happening now. Did the security forces have anything to do with this?
The Prime Minister does act based on the advice of the Chief of Defence Staff and the Commissioner of Police. So they would have been a part of advising National Security Council of the community. So,
but you are aware that there are some folks who are trying to politicize this, to say it's because it's this community or that community. Right. How do you respond to those claims?
Well, that's the point I was making earlier, that regardless of where you sit on the political fence, any objective person would have to agree that the professionalism, the efficiency, just the general manner in which this operation has rolled has been better than we've seen ever before.
Again, this is the first one. I suspect there'll be more. Does it happen at the same time, or you go into this one, then you pack up and go to another one, or could you have 2 or 3 going on at the same time?
We don't know. We don't know. So we just have to do this as a benchmark. So if we have to go somewhere else, we'd have had some lessons learned and some information. And probably one of the things that we're hearing a lot of that persons are saying, after day 3, we have not found any guns. And
that was my next question.
Yes, and it is something that I really want to put on the table, that after day 3, and I keep saying that persons should not look at the special zone of operations as an event. it is a process. And we know that the get the guns is one of the things that we're really trying to achieve during this operation, because we have information that the guns are out there. Just yesterday, though you have been following, the Honorable Prime Minister launched an incentive program for persons who want to participate in providing information about guns, not just in the zone of special operations, but the entire Jamaica.
That's $100 million.
$100 million and 154 high-powered rifle, semi-automatic weapons.
So let me ask you now, but that's going to depend greatly on the buying of the community, because they are the ones who know where the guns are. So this is going to be a trust-building mission as well as...
that is why it is so important for us to be respectful of every citizen within the community and to help make this a collaborative effort. We've gone to great lengths to ensure that this happens.
Some folks in the community we were reading this morning are suggesting that not ZOSO. There's not so many gangs, there's not so many murders, and it's a wider area than you are focusing on. Obviously, you don't agree with these people.
The thing about it is that we know we have persons of the community who, some are in denial, some of them are forced to come out and say all kind of things, because the organized criminal network, is very influential and has certain influence on the community. So we value those feedback coming from the citizens, and as Major mentioned earlier, we want persons to know that this zone of special operations is very little about the security forces. It's the people's operation. We are trying to restore order in communities where criminals have held them, I don't even want to say hostages, but has really impacted on their quality of lives. And we really want to ensure that through this process, we can change some of those things. There's a big part that will come on stream very shortly, which is the social intervention component. The Deputy Chair, Mr. Sweeney, was a part of the walkthrough yesterday afternoon.
He's from JSIF?
So he will be the Deputy Chair. So we looked at a number of things, and we recognize that crime is just one element of community development, community safety.
But if you have the social intervention and people are occupied, they have less time to get involved in. One more question. We have to go, but one more question. You say this is the people's program. It's very important. So you guys are on social media. I see you've established a Twitter handle at ZOSO. I think it is. You have Jamaica Constab. There is a hotline as well.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, I see the opposition has set up a hotline for complaints. That's interesting. But I know you have an official ZOSO hotline where people can call in and give you the information you need. Can you reiterate where you can be reached?
The official ZOSO hotline is 1-888-225-ZOSO or 1-888-225-9676. That number is the official number for persons to register complaints, ask questions, and familiarize themselves with the provisions of the ZOSO.
Yeah. You said at least 60 days. What if you realize after 30 that everything is everything? And
well, the law makes provision for the Honorable Prime Minister to make decisions at different points. If after 60 days he recognizes that there may be the need for an extension, then he can go back to Parliament and try to get. So I think when you listen to the persons who speak from a policy level, you get the feeling that we will remain in a community where a zone is established until we are satisfied that we have achieved the objectives.
And for the folks who know that zones are coming their way, I asked you earlier, the criminals might want to start packing up their guns from now. You've built that into the provisional.
Well, let's hope they can. Let's hope they pack up their guns and turn them over. We really need to move Jamaica to a level where all communities are functioning like proper communities. We hope that this is that effort that will move Jamaica forward.
We have a great displacement strategy that has been built into this. So we do expect that persons are going to flee to other communities, and that is why we have extended the incentives to all of Jamaica, because we know they'll be fleeing to somewhere there, so everyone can participate.
Please be safe, ma'am. Sir.
Well, I'm really excited to see where this goes, because God knows we need to get things.
Thanks for coming. Head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Corporate Communications Unit, Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, and Civil Military Cooperation and Media Affairs Officer at the JDF, Major Basil Jai.
On the other side of the break, folks, time management for the new school term. We'll be back with that after this.
Well, forget to tell us something.